Welcome students. In this video we will be talking about the circulation of blood. Okay. In the first video we had discussed about the parts of the heart, and in this video we will be discussing about the blood circulation process in detail. Okay. So let's start. Okay. So human blood circulation system is actually a double circulatory system. Okay. Why? Because human blood circulatory system consists of two blood circulatory system. Okay, one is systemic circulation and another is pulmonary circulation. So actually why do we call human circulatory system as the double circulatory system? It is very simple, because if you think generally, that you will find that human heart once pumps, and that's how all the blood from the heart travels throughout all the body, and then from the body the deoxygenated blood comes in the heart, and then it reaches to the lungs, and thereby the CO2 from that deoxygenated blood is expelled out from our body. So there is, if you see properly, there is two mechanisms happening simultaneously. That's how it is called as double circulation process. Okay, so let's discuss about the systemic circulation. So what happened in systemic circulation? Look at very careful. Okay, in systemic circulation we know that blood consists of four chambers, the two auricles and two ventricles. So in systemic circulation, the blood from a particular vein, okay, a particular vein named as pulmonary vein, okay, keep in mind about the veins and arteries. It is very important. Okay, so the oxygenated blood from the pulmonary vein enters the left auricle. Okay, pulmonary valve enters the left auricle, then it travels towards the left ventricle. Okay, so the blood from left pulmonary vein, left auricle and left ventricle, then this blood moves through a major aorta. Okay, major aorta. The aorta means artery. We know that our artery transport the oxygenated blood. Okay, so a major aorta, this artery is named as aorta. Okay, so the major aorta transporting these oxygenated blood towards the whole part of all parts of our body. Okay, the aorta is again further divided into two more branches, that helps in transporting the blood throughout the capillaries and then throughout all the body. Okay, so that is the first mechanisms that happens in the left auricle and left ventricle. That is the pulmonary veins. The oxygenated blood comes in the left auricle, and then it travels to the left ventricle, then the major artery or the aorta, then throughout the whole body. Okay, remember one thing, that the blood once reaches in the left ventricle, that is, once it reaches from the auricle to ventricle, it cannot be backflow towards the auricle, because it is we know that human blood circulatory system is a one-way circulatory system. Okay, so why the backflow cannot be happen? Because there is a presence of the bicuspid valve. Okay, so let's talk about the right auricle and right ventricle. So what happened in the right auricle and right ventricle? Look, the blood that is containing CO2, that is the blood rich in CO2, is always generating in our body. Okay, that's been the metabolic action that has been performed in our body in every seconds. That's how we get the deoxygenated blood. In a way, to be precisely, it is to be said that the food we get is actually oxidized, and that's how by burning the food we produce CO2, and that CO2 is mixed up in the blood, and the blood gets deoxygenated. So this deoxygenated blood comes finally in the lungs by two veins. Okay, how these things happens? Look at very careful. The deoxygenated blood from the veins we know the vein carry deoxygenated blood, so it carries from the veins, and then it comes towards the particular two veins named as vena cava. Okay, the vena cava, the lower part of the vena cava is named as inferior vena cava, and the upper part of the veins is known as superior vena cava. So the blood from the inferior vena cava, the deoxygenated blood from the inferior vena cava travels throughout the superior vena cava, then it comes to the right auricle, okay, right auricle, and then the right auricle squeeze and it enters to the right ventricle, and once it enters to the right ventricle, it is transported by a artery, okay. It is very careful that there is an exception. We know that the veins carried always carries the deoxygenated blood, but in the an artery carries the oxygenated blood, but it is the only exception where you can see that the artery carrying the deoxygenated blood. So from the blood from the right ventricle is carried out by the pulmonary artery, and then it reaches to the lungs. Actually blood does not reaches to the lungs, the CO2 the reaches to the lungs, and the CO2 is expelled out from our lungs, and that is the whole mechanism, okay. So let's let's discuss it by a diagram. I have made a diagram, look at it very carefully. This is the main diagram, okay. Look at here. First you can see it is suppose it is your lungs, it is your heart, and it is your body parts, okay. So what is the process happening in here? Look at here. The blood from left auricle travels toward the left ventricle, then this is the main aorta that I have been talking about, okay. The main aorta, so the blood from reached in oxygen, it is traveled towards the main aorta or the artery. It is oxygenated blood, okay, remember that, and then it travels towards the whole body. I have marked the oxygenated blood with the red color and mark the deoxygenated blood with the blue color, okay. So simultaneously what happened in the right auricle? Look at the deoxygenated blood from inferior vena cava, then superior vena cava enters to the right auricle, then the right ventricle, and then by this pulmonary artery it reaches releasing the CO2 into the lungs, and the CO2 is expelled out from the body, okay. So this is the mechanism of the heart, okay. We have been and the what is systemic, so the entire process, that is the left auricle and left ventricle process, is been continues under the systemic circulation, and the releasing of the CO2 blood from our body is continues to be in pulmonary circulation, okay. So in a way it is the main mechanisms of the heart, okay. You will find it in any books, and if you follow these videos and go through the text, and then you can easily understand the mechanisms of the heart, okay. So stay tuned for the further update, and thank you for being with us.